You finally have nothing to do. No tasks, no deadlines, no one needing anything from you. A completely free afternoon, the exact thing you have been craving all week. And instead of melting into it, you feel this low, itching restlessness, a quiet voice going, "You should be doing something." You sit down to relax and you feel almost guilty, like you are getting away with something, like rest is a thing you have to earn and have not. So why is it so hard to just do nothing? And why does an empty to-do list, the thing you wanted, somehow fill you with anxiety instead of relief? Because your brain has been quietly tricked into treating your own rest as a threat. And today, I am going to show you exactly how to take it back. Let me start by naming the lie underneath all of it. The story you have absorbed so deeply you probably never questioned it is that your worth is your output, that an unproductive hour is a wasted one, that resting when you could be doing something is a kind of laziness you should feel bad about. So a calm afternoon does not feel like a reward, it feels like a debt you are failing to pay. But that guilt is not your conscience, and it is not some accurate signal that you are slacking. It is a program installed in you by a world that measures people by what they produce, running on top of an ancient survival instinct that was never meant for a life this safe. Once you see both of those pieces clearly, the guilt loses almost all of its power. So here's the plan. I'm going to show you 3 things, in order. First, why your brain treats doing nothing as a genuine danger. Second, why modern life took that instinct and cranked it into constant grinding guilt. And third, how to actually rest again, without the voice in your head charging you rent for it. Let's start with the survival part. The first thing to understand is that your brain evolved in scarcity, and in scarcity, rest could get you killed. For almost all of human history, downtime was not safe by default. The animal that stopped foraging, stopped preparing, stopped staying alert was the animal that starved or got caught off guard. So your brain came pre-installed with a bias against idleness, a low-grade unease that whispers, "Do not just sit there. There is always something that needs doing to stay alive." That restless itch you feel on a free afternoon is, in part, that ancient alarm firing. Problem is that it was calibrated for a world of genuine scarcity and constant threat, and you were trying to use it on a Saturday with a full fridge and a locked door and absolutely nothing hunting you. Here's the example you know intimately. You finally sit down, and within about 90 seconds, you feel a pull to get up, check something, tidy something, be useful somehow. Your body is not tired of resting. It is uncomfortable with it, because a deep, old part of your brain cannot quite tell the difference between safe and free and idle and at risk. To that part, stillness looks like danger. I feel this one badly on my own days off. I will have genuinely finished everything, nothing left to do, and I still cannot fully settle. I will reorganize a drawer that was already fine, answer an email that could easily wait a week, invent some small task out of thin air, all so that I can feel like I am allowed to sit down afterward. I am not even relaxing at that point. I am just buying myself permission to relax that I already had the whole time. And here is the warning worth sitting with. That instinct is not wrong exactly. It is just wildly out of date, running survival software in a world that mostly is not trying to kill you anymore. On its own, it is just a background itch. But then modern life took that itch and poured gasoline on it. The second thing is that our culture took a mild ancient instinct and turned it into a full-blown moral debt. Somewhere along the way, we absorbed the idea that being busy is being good, that productivity is not just useful, it is virtuous, a sign of character, and its opposite, rest, quietly, became a moral failing. Evidence that you are lazy, undisciplined, not making enough of yourself. This did not come from nowhere. We inherited centuries of it, the old idea that idle hands are somehow dangerous, that hard work sits right next to godliness, that a person's whole character can be read in how busy they manage to keep themselves. It got baked so deep into the culture that it stopped looking like a belief at all and started looking like plain common sense. But it is a belief. People in other times and other places have treated rest, leisure, and stillness as signs of a life well lived, not a life wasted. The guilt you feel is not simply universal human nature. It is a particular story you happen to be raised inside of. Stack that belief on top of the survival itch, and rest stops being merely uncomfortable and starts feeling wrong, almost shameful. You end up carrying what I can only call an imaginary productivity debt, a permanent sense that you always owe more, that you have not done enough, that you are behind on a bill that can never actually be paid off. So even with an empty to-do list, you feel like you are slacking, because the debt is not tied to any real task. It is tied to your sense of your own worth. And modern life makes this so much worse because you are constantly shown everyone else's grind. The highlight reels of people hustling, building, optimizing every hour, monetizing their hobbies, waking up at 5, plants the quiet suspicion that while you are resting, everyone else is getting ahead, and you are falling behind just by breathing. And it has crept into even our rest itself. Notice how leisure now has to be productive too. Your hobby should really become a side hustle. Your morning should be a routine that optimizes you. Even self-care gets sold to you as a way to recharge so you can go back and work harder, as if the only acceptable reason to rest is to become a slightly better machine afterward. We have gotten so far into it that we can barely even relax anymore without the relaxation needing to have a point. So a calm, ordinary afternoon, which should feel like peace, gets reframed by your own mind into a source of genuine anxiety. And this is honestly why I make this channel. So a quick thing, if you like having these invisible pressures named out loud like this, take 1 second and subscribe, because here's the part that actually sets you free. That whole debt is fake, and rest was never the enemy in the first place. The third thing, and the part I really need you to hear, is that rest is not the absence of productivity. It is part of it, and your worth was never your output to begin with. Let's kill the practical myth first. Rest is not wasted time, even by the cold logic of productivity itself. When you stop and do nothing, your brain does not switch off. It switches modes. It consolidates what you have learned. It makes the loose, creative connections produce your best ideas. It restores the mental resources you have burned all day. As we have talked about on this channel, your best ideas show up in the shower, on the walk, in the idle moment, precisely because rest is when that machinery runs. You literally cannot do good, sustained work without it. Grinding through every waking hour does not make you more productive. It slowly makes you worse, more tired, more foggy, more burnt out. Rest is not the thing standing in the way of your work. It is part of the work. But honestly, that is the smaller point. The bigger one is this: your worth is not a function of your output. You are not a machine whose value is measured in units produced. You are allowed to rest, to exist, to have a slow afternoon that accomplishes absolutely nothing, long before you ever earned a single thing, and you still are. A life is not a to-do list to be optimized. And here's the warning, the trap to avoid. Do not turn your rest into another project. Do not try to rest efficiently or optimize your relaxation or feel like your day off also has to produce something. That just smuggles the guilt back in through the side door. Real rest is allowed to be pointless. That is the entire point of it. I had to genuinely relearn this one. For a long time, my idea of a good day was a productive one, full stop, and a day where I just rested quietly felt like a day I had somehow lost. It took me an embarrassingly long time to understand that some of the best days of my whole life were completely useless by that measure. A long, slow afternoon with someone I love, doing nothing worth reporting to anyone. Those days were not the empty gaps between my real life. They were my real life. The busy, productive days were mostly just there to pay for them. So let me pull this together. You learned that the guilt you feel when you relax comes from two things stacked on top of each other: an ancient survival instinct that treats idleness as danger, and a cultural program that convinced you your worth equals your productivity, leaving you carrying an imaginary debt you can never pay. You learned that this makes an empty to-do list feel like anxiety instead of relief. And you learned the truth underneath it, that rest is not the enemy of a good life or good work. It is essential to both, and that your value was never something you had to produce your way into. And here's the part I want you to keep: that restless, guilty voice that will not let you enjoy a free afternoon is not you, and it is not the truth. It is a program, half ancient wiring, half cultural conditioning, running in the background and charging you for something that was always free. And once you can see it as a program instead of a fact, you can start to turn the volume down. The next time you finally have nothing to do and that guilt creeps in, try to catch it and name it. That is not my conscience. That is just old software mistaking peace for danger. You do not owe the world a constantly optimized life. You are allowed to sit in a quiet afternoon and do nothing at all. Not as a reward you earned, but simply because you are a person, and people are allowed to rest. And there is a strange kind of freedom the moment that actually lands. So much of the exhaustion people carry around is not really from the work itself. It is from never once feeling allowed to fully stop, from resting with one eye open and a running tab of guilt in the background. Take away the tab, and rest finally becomes restful. That, far more than any productivity hack, is what actually recharges a person. So this week, do one genuinely radical thing. Take an hour or even 20 minutes and rest on purpose, doing something pointless you actually enjoy. And when the guilt shows up, and it will, do not obey it. Just notice it, name it as the old program it is, and let yourself stay. Consider it practice for a life that is not run entirely by a debt that was never real. So tell me down in the comments, because I suspect almost everyone feels this. What is the thing you can cannot let yourself do without feeling guilty, even when you have genuinely earned the break. And be honest, when was the last time you rested without that little voice charging you for it? Tell me below. And if you want another one of these truths about the pressures quietly running your life, go watch the one on why you stay up late, even when you are exhausted, because it is the same hunger for your own time, coming out in a different way. I'll see you over there, hopefully while you are relaxing.